Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order. It is 6:35. Just so you all know, Shama is not here with us tonight, but she's going to watch the recording and do the notes later. I don't see anybody for citizen comments. Right, so we're going to table approving the minutes from July 22nd until our next meeting, which is, I believe, August 19th. We need a motion for that, don't we, to table the approval?
I'll make a motion to table approving the minutes from July 22nd.
22nd, yeah.
And yeah, to our next meeting.
Do you have a second?
I'll second it. Elaine Siegel.
And I guess I'll run us through the roll call vote. Natalie?
Yes.
Elaine?
Yes.
Martha?
Sorry, guys, there was a pop-up I couldn't get to go away about the meeting getting recorded, but yes, I vote yes.
Okay, thank you. We have no old business today. The old business was removed. So that brings us to our new business. Do we have to move to push items?
We don't have to move. We can just circle back to it.
Okay. All right. We'll get back to Iden's Diversity Club, Diversity Book Club. That brings us to you, Natalie. Do you want to update us on consultancy?
Sure. Yes, I do. Let me pull up my notes. Okay, so I don't have a ton to report back, but I just wanted to kind of tell you all where I'm at to see if you have any input or suggestions. So I did I just did like a basic Google search on equity consultancies or firms or groups, organizations within the like Evanston or greater Chicago area, and reached out to like the top 3 that I felt might be in line with what we're looking for. So I reached out to an organization called Dieta Jones and Associates, who does equity leadership work. And I was in contact with a woman there, and we went back and forth through email a little bit about the Park District and where we are in our equity work and what we're looking for. And she talked to her team and actually got back to me this morning and said they didn't think that they were the right fit for what we needed. So I've scratched them off my list. I also reached out to an organization called Full Circle Leadership because I read an article about District 65 and an equity assessment they had done recently. And they had worked with a woman named Corey Wallace. And she's part of the Illinois Coalition of Equity Education Leaders. So I reached out to Full Circle Leadership and told them again, kind of what we were looking for. And they connected me directly with Corey. So Corey was on vacation. She just got back. She and I've been playing a little bit of phone tag. So hoping that we can have, that we can connect tomorrow for a phone conversation. And I can tell her a little bit more about who we are, what we need. She stood out to me, obviously, because she's worked with District 65 and is very familiar with Evanston. I don't know. I was interested to talk to you guys about it because I didn't know if, as parents of kids in the D65 school district, if you had any knowledge of her or any of the work that D65 had done in their equity work with her. So that's still a possibility. And then third, I reached back out to Tiffany McDowell and kind of caught her up on where we are in where we've come in the time since we've really kind of sat down and worked with her and talked to her about our equity plans.
And she's at the Y, Natalie, right?
Yeah, she's at the YW Institute and Equity Institute. And I have not heard back from Tiffany as of yet. So So that's it. That's kind of where I'm at. I wanted to talk to you about Corey Wallace and Tiffany and see if you had any thoughts or opinions, and then see if you had any ideas or suggestions on maybe any organizations that you might know of that have done equity work. And I could potentially reach out to them specifically and say, hey, who did you work with in your consultancy, and kind of go that route as well. But yeah, so that's where I'm at.
Thank you.
Are you familiar, JC, with Corey?
I just went to look a couple things up. I feel like her name is familiar, but I can't. I don't know if I actually know it. And I remember filling out surveys at some point in the last couple years that were related to equity, which I'm assuming is what they were involved in, but I don't have a whole ton of information.
Okay.
I don't know, Martha, if you know a little bit more than I do. And my guess is that Iden would know.
I was gonna say I'd like to talk to Iden about it too and see if she has any knowledge of her.
You're talking about Corey Wallace in particular?
Yeah.
You know, I have a similar experience to what JC just said, which is that her name is very familiar to me. I know for a fact that somebody has even recommended her to me as somebody that we look into, but it was at a much earlier point in time. So I can't remember who it was, and I can't even remember if it was before Dr. Effiam or if Dr. Effiam might have even mentioned her. It might have been Tiffany who mentioned her. So I know her name is very familiar, and that she came very well recommended, highly recommended. I can't say I know anything else about her. So, you know, it's good, I think, though, that, like, you know, her name is obviously being talked about a lot, and that, you know, people that we've been talking to have been recommending her. But I would like to, you know, find out more details of what it is that she does, and, you know, talk to her directly. In terms of our timing, Natalie, you know, is that kind of, and in terms of next steps, is that kind of what you envision being a next step for us, you know, starting to figure out which of the people we might move forward with, of the ones you mentioned, and then possibly others?
Yeah.
You know, do we want to set up some? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So I'm doing kind of like a pre-screening research thing. And that was something else I wanted to talk to the group about, was in terms of next steps. You know, once I speak to Corey and we can actually connect on the phone, I'll tell her the same thing I talked to the Dieta Jones and Associates about, essentially, is like who we are, where we're at, what we've been doing, what we're looking for, what our budget is, and see if that's something that that she is even willing to like take on. And then the next steps, what I imagine the next steps would be is that I would schedule some of these folks to come to a meeting to talk to us. And we can ask questions. We can hear them speak a little bit about their work and what they do, if they have, you know, and I think also talking to the group will give them a better idea of like who we are and what we're working on, and kind of take it from there. But before I can really schedule them to come talk to us, I have to coordinate with them first and make sure that they're even like, you know, the right fit for us. So that's my plan. Does that sound like it makes sense to everybody else?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I just looked Corey Wallace up. She was involved. She's one of the facilitators for SEED, the Seeking Equity. I just ran out of my head what the whole acronym is, but she's one of the SEED facilitators.
Okay. Yeah. She had lots of Evanston roots, so it felt like, I was very glad to hear that she emailed me back while she was on vacation, and I was like, oh, good. I'm glad that you know, somebody connected us. So through the full circle leadership. So that's great. The other thing I wanted to ask, and Martha, you might have an opinion about this since you went through the process with me the first time. Do you feel like I should reach back out to any of the folks besides Tiffany, but do you think we should reach back out to any of the other consultants that we had worked with or talked to the first round. I know that Mike Simmons, he is now a state rep. I don't remember the exact title that he won, but he's an elected official now, and I think he's spending time in Springfield. I don't know where he is or what he's doing with his equity organization at this point, because I know that his life has kind of gone in a different has taken him, to Springfield. So he's still in Chicago, but so I don't know. And then the other, and I can't remember his name right now. Martha, please help me. What was the other gentleman's name that we spoke to?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you talking about Dr. Logan?
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Logan. Do you have any opinions about whether or not I should reach out to Dr. Logan?
Well, I do. My opinions are these two main things. One is that I liked him a lot. I liked everything about him in the limited conversations that we had with him. I found him to be an amazing listener. And when we were talking to him, there was quite a lot that we were talking about, and I really felt like he took it all in. He said that his approach was, to understand fully first exactly where we were, and as well as we understood it, where we wanted to be and all of that, and that he was going to kind of craft an approach that was tailored to us. And I thought that sounded great. But my other second piece of sort of reminiscing on Dr. Logan is just that he did mention to me that he would put together sort of a brief proposal, because he said that his proposals are very, very detailed, and when he feels like he's in the running with a number of other people, it's not always something that he throws his hat in the ring, because it's like a lot of time and effort that goes into even just the proposal. I remember him saying something like that. And then we ultimately did not get a proposal from him.
Right.
And so, obviously that gives me a little bit of concern, just because I was looking forward to getting it and we did not receive it. But again, given how much I liked him and his approach and everything that he said and his energy, I would love to at least reach out, see if he's, in a position where it's even something that he would consider wanting to do, and going from there. Because if his answer is no, his answer is no. If his answer is yes, maybe we would reach the position, the point with him of getting a proposal and seriously considering him. You know what I mean? So
I think to your point, Martha, I think when we talked to him the first time, and I don't know if this has anything to do with it or not, but I'm not sure that we knew what we needed or what we were looking for necessarily. We had a kind of general idea that work needed to be done. I think this time around, we have a more specific ask, I guess. Like we have an established committee. We've been through some training. Like I feel like we have more answers to bring to the table while we're discussing this with him. So I think hopefully that might kind of impact his response, and maybe give him a clearer idea right off the bat of what exactly we need.
I think that's an excellent point, Natalie. And I also want to say that, given that we were in sort of a defensive position of, a somewhat senseless attack at that point in time, and basically trying to run people through like exactly what was going on, that was so hyper focused on those particular details at that particular time. I really wouldn't fault anyone, Dr. Logan included, for feeling like that's not really the bigger picture of the equity work that they do necessarily. And not only are we in a different place in terms of knowing better what it is that we need and why and all of that, knowing what it is that we don't need as well, is really part of that overall learning process as to what the real equity work is at Ridgeville. And so, I'm just kind of adding on to what you said, in that I think working with him could be a real possibility with these new elements of kind of who we are and where we're at. So yes, short answer, yes, please reach out to him, or I could, I'm happy to do it, since I had handled a lot of the communication with him last time. But if you wanted sort of centrally manage everything and you're
I'll reach out to him just in my efforts to kind of organize this phase of the process, and and hopefully, he's interested in meeting with the committee and I can schedule that with him. Because I agreed, I had actually all the consultants that we met with, I thought were great and could have, we could have worked very well with. So I would be happy to reach out to him again. Aiden, welcome.
Hi, Aiden.
Aiden, we're just talking about kind of where I'm at with researching consultants for the fiscal year for this year. And one of the people that I've been in touch with is Corey Wallace. She is.
Love her.
You know her?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So that was my question for you. I did a search for local-ish organization, like equity organizations, and an article came up about Full Circle Leadership that did a assessment for District 65 and talked about Corey Wallace, and she's part of the Illinois Coalition of Equity Education Leaders. So I had reached out to her. We're playing some phone tag. She was on vacation. So I was curious if any of the parents within the group that have kids currently in D65 had knowledge of Corey or any thoughts or ideas. And it sounds like maybe you do.
Well, I mean, I grew up with her.
Oh, okay.
So I went to school with her sister. She's a few years older than me. And I know her I don't know her as a parent, but I know her as a teacher because I did Beyond Diversity training through the district, and she ran that. And she did a great job. I really enjoyed that programming.
Okay.
So yeah, I think she's great.
Good. Okay. Excellent. Well, hopefully she and I will be able to connect tomorrow on the phone. And then Aiden also, I was just saying, I am kind of doing like a pre-screen just to see if what Ridgeville is looking for is something that these organizations or individuals, if it fits with what they do, or if they're interested in, talking to us. And so once I confirm that, I'll start scheduling people to come to our REDI meetings to essentially kind of interview with us. That's like the next step.
Great. Very exciting.
So I'll reach out to Dr. Logan. Is there anybody else that knows of either people who specialize in equity leadership or organizations that you're familiar with in Evanston that have done equity work that I might reach out to see who they worked with? Any thoughts on that? It's okay if there's not. I just wanted to throw it out there.
Can you hear me?
Oh.
No, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say my brain doesn't work well on commands lately. So let me think about it. And at like 2 a.m. it'll come to me and then I will send you a message.
Love it.
And I was going to say that Carla Thomas, who is another local mom, at some point in the recent past was, I think, doing equity consulting. I don't know if I'm even right about that. I don't know if she still is. I know she's got a number of things going on. I think she's worth reaching out to. Her name is Carla Thomas. It's Carla with a K and Thomas.
You know if she does she do the work as an individual or is she associated with a company or group?
I think it was work she was doing individually. I know so little about it. I don't want to speak as though I know about it. I just remember, kind of hearing things here and there. And again, it wasn't super recently, so it just might not even be applicable anymore. But I can give you her contact information, Natalie. And, just in terms of trying to reach out to as many people as possible, because, I think having options is good. And there might be people who, like you already experienced, say that they're not a good fit. And, so having a lot of options, I think is a good thing.
Okay, great.
And then, Natalie, speaking of getting other recommendations, and maybe this has already happened and I missed it somehow. I know we've kind of talked about it at various points, but I don't know if it's taken place yet. Did anyone have a chance to connect with Dr. Effiam in that specific way of sort of asking her for recommendations?
I have not yet.
Okay. Because that's something I would definitely recommend at least trying to do, you know. I know she's got health stuff going on, but she's, you know, probably got recommendations for us. And I even feel like I remember her alluding to, you know, planning to give us recommendations, but I just don't think that we've gotten them from her.
Do we know for a fact that she is not any longer interested in being a consultant?
Yeah, I think that's a good question because I don't know if we know. Does anybody else know if
I don't, she has not told me that like specifically, but I feel in all the conversations that we've had either with her or she's had with other people, the sense that I got was that we weren't moving forward with Dr. Effiam either because just based on like personal, you know, things that she's taking on right now.
Right.
But
I just wasn't sure if that had ever actually been confirmed.
Yeah, but yeah, she has not told me. So I'll send her an email tomorrow morning just to confirm that I'm not making that up, and see if she does have, because she did say that when she came and spoke to us the last time that she was going to give us kind of a, didn't she say she was going to give us like a summary kind of where we were and the work that we did?
She said last time that she was still interested, if I understood her correctly.
Right, I heard that too, but then I wasn't sure if we were still interested or if we wanted to go a different direction. I wasn't sure if we had even discussed that.
Okay. I think I interpreted the conversation differently, so I should definitely email her.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you know, not to speak for Debbie, but she's no longer on the committee. And so I think that she did say that her understanding of where Dr. Effiam was that she very well might be interested and that was a conversation we should have with her instead of making assumptions. That's I think where Debbie kind of left it with me. And I agree that I think it was Elaine who just said that it was her understanding from Dr. Effiam herself that, you know, she is not out of the game entirely, and that so yeah, let's follow up with her and just see what she says to all of that.
Okay, yeah, certainly. Okay.
I think, you know, as we've already said a number of times, Natalie, we do have a better sense of what it is that we want to need, both in terms of like logistics of how frequently we want to be able to, you know, talk to our consultants and about what kinds of things we want to be able to talk and when we would want them present with us, et cetera. All kinds of stuff like that is much more clear than it was in the very beginning. And so, you know, I think that's part of the bigger conversation in terms of talking to consultants is, you know, are they available on that level for us and within our budget? And if so, that's part of being ultimately a viable option for us. And you know, if some consultants, I think, are more of the structure of they'll meet with you once or twice or 3 times or 4 times in 6 months or in a whole year. And that's not necessarily somebody calling me. Oh, hey, sorry.
Okay. I'll email Dr. Effiam and see what she says.
Okay, that sounds good.
Cool. That's it for that one.
I'm sorry. I was in my yard and that was my friend dropping something off. So I'm sorry about the interruption.
Oh, that's okay.
Does anybody else have anything that they want to add about consultancy or recommendations or anything along those lines?
Can I ask a question just for clarification? I guess I'm just confused. And I guess I'm not sure if if we should talk about, so we had executive session at the last special meeting was to talk about consultancy. And I think we went in some different directions, maybe within that conversation, but and I don't know if we want to have this as an open meeting or if we need to go back to an executive session at some point to discuss it, but I left the meeting thinking that I needed to start researching other consultants because we were not working with Dr. Effiam. Not in like a we're cutting ties kind of a way. I think she made it clear that she wants to continue working with us as a person who knows us and is friends with us and cares about the park district. But I was under the understanding that we were not moving forward with her as a consultant, which is why I was supposed to research other consultants. Did I misunderstand that?
Wasn't my understanding.
Okay. Because if we want to ask Dr. Effiam to come back as our consultant, then I don't need to be contacting other consultants.
I like the idea of looking for somebody new. I mean, I think she's great, but I think it would be good to just sort of see who else is out there, see if we can get somebody else that is.
Mama, are you thinking this?
Please walk away. That can maybe just be like a different, a little a new perspective or a new connection to different parts of the community, you know, younger, I don't know.
Sure. I mean, we talked about this in I think our last board meeting or at some point over the summer, like talking about auditors, like how you should change your auditor every couple of years just for transparency purposes and for I can't remember exactly the verbiage that we used, but it seemed when we were talking about consultancy, I don't remember who I was talking to about this, but that kind of also makes sense that you would want to shake up perspectives every couple of years and just have different, you know, voices that we're working with when we're talking about this kind of stuff. So I don't know. So based on the last, the special meeting, the executive session, I guess that's what I walked away with was that idea that like we wanted to search for different perception, like, yeah, I don't know.
Can you guys hear me?
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I misunderstood, but that's where I thought we landed.
Yeah, didn't we vote?
Can you guys hear me? It's Martha.
Yes,
Yeah.
Martha, I hear you.
Okay. I just wanted to chime in on this. As to whether we voted or not, I honestly can't remember. But going back a step, I feel like there was not at all a total clear understanding that, like from either direction, that Pat would definitely want to continue working with us, or that we would definitely want to continue working with her. And part of it, you know, has to do with certain elements of previous contracts not quite getting met, which may be partly due to COVID and also partly due to personal health problems. So I think that, you know, in terms of the work that she does and in terms of hearing a proposal from her as to what she would recommend we do next and why and what it would cost, I'm still interested in hearing that from her. But I wasn't interested in necessarily continuing with her automatically as though we weren't also opening it up to others. And I wouldn't want us to assume we were working with her and, you know, encounter additional issues of achieving what it was that we set out to achieve. So, you know, that might be part of the conversation with her if and when we get to the point where she says, yes, I absolutely want to work with you. And here's what I think that you need to do. Because we can cross those bridges when we come to them. But, you know, I totally understand that people can't always stick to what they've committed to because of health issues. I know that from various personal angles. And, you know, and I also have a lot of respect for Dr. Effiam and the work that she does, the work that she's helped us do, et cetera. So I'm kind of like, you know, and just because she's helped us greatly doesn't mean she's the right fit for us necessarily moving forward, because I think so much of the fundamental work that we did in terms of deciding to set up a committee, getting that done, opening it up to members of the community, you know, and just continuing to have many of the conversations that we've been having over the past, what is it now, 2 years? You know, she's helped us greatly. Does that mean she's the best fit for us moving forward? Not necessarily. So, but it doesn't mean I'm not open to her at all. No, I'm not feeling that extreme about it either. So I hope that helps clarify for you, Natalie, like where I'm coming from at least. And then Aiden's question, does anyone else remember if we did take a vote? I can't remember if we voted on that.
I don't believe we did. One thing that I do recall us talking about, and maybe I was the person that made the point, is that Dr. Effiam had done a lot of groundwork, and that she had some specific directions that she wanted to lead us. We hadn't gotten there yet, and so I'd be very interested as part of this discussion to get a clearer sense of of what directions she would have us take, what kinds of objectives, and what kinds of things, more specifically, her concept of leadership would, of this group would entail.
I will ask her if she wouldn't mind submitting that in writing. I'm happy to ask her to come to essentially like another meeting as like an interview type thing, so she can talk with us about that. She's not on contract anymore, so she doesn't technically have to do, right? Like she doesn't have to technically do that. I think she will. I don't think that she would say no. But I'll see if she'd be willing to submit that in writing, because she did talk about that. Or if she prefers to speak to us at a REDI meeting, I would love for her to come. So yeah, I'll reach out to her and see if I can connect with her on the phone, and then we can talk about all the different things.
That sounds good. And I just, to put my 2 cents in there, I agree. I think that we should look at other consultants to see what other opportunities are out there for us, and if there might be a better match for us. And I would include Dr. Effiam in that search. But at the very least, I would like to have some sort of, closure, or some sort of understanding from her perspective, what directions we should be going in.
Yep. Okay.
Does anybody else have anything on that item? Okay. Item, we're going to circle back to your diversity book club in just a minute. The next item on the agenda is the District 65 lawsuit. Is there anybody who's unaware of the lawsuit and what is happening with it? Okay, so if in case any of you don't know, there's a petition that is being signed by individuals and organizations around Evanston. I had made the suggestion that Ridgeville sign onto that petition. So is this something that we vote about in terms of me taking this to the board?
I think so.
I think that we, in my board report next week, I think that we should recommend that the board sign on Ridgeville, or have Ridgeville sign that petition to oppose the lawsuit against District 65 for the anti-racist curriculum.
Is that your motion, JC?
Yes, I move for us to make that recommendation to the board.
I will second that motion, Natalie Salee. Okay,
so I have a question now that we've had a motion and a second on it. And my question is for Elaine, if she feels comfortable weighing in on this. I have heard just the basics of what the lawsuit is about, or what it alleges, or both. And what I have heard is from people who are, adamantly opposed to the lawsuit existing, et cetera. I have been curious for a long time about finding as objective as possible an understanding of what's really going on, which isn't to say that what I've heard from people is wrong, but it sounds so ridiculous that I'm just in disbelief. If it really boils down to a white teacher in District 65 alleging racism against her, I'm just in disbelief. So I feel like I have to do my due diligence as a human being with a brain to find out exactly what is in there. And the reason I'm wanting to ask Elaine is that, I don't know much about the law. Are there some parts of a lawsuit like this that are private, that are not going to be accessible to the public in terms of somebody wanting to, become as well versed in the details of the lawsuit as possible, and if so, how can one get a full understanding of what's really going on if there aren't, if we are not privy to the lawsuit? And I want to be clear, if it really is about exactly what I've heard it is, I am utterly against it. But I'm just trying to do the right thing of understanding something before I come out super publicly against it, if that makes sense. Because I know that sometimes there are details in a lawsuit that the public is not privy to. I'm just kind of trying to get a sense of how fully we feel like we understand what's going on.
Well, I will volunteer to pull up. I've read a little bit about the case. I've read several different sources, but I've not reviewed the complaint, and I'm not familiar with further background facts that might illuminate it. I have to say that off the top, to the extent that this is premised on the First Amendment, she's not talking about matters of public concern, in the sense that she's talking about things that are specific to her employment, and that's not something that comes within the scope of First Amendment protections. We can argue about whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. I've found it very disappointing over the years. We've got a little competition here. Sorry about the noise. But it doesn't sound to me like it, even to the extent that she's talking about what she was doing with the drama program in her capacity as a part-time teacher there. That's not something that really comes within the protections of the First Amendment. So that is not an opinion about the lawsuit. That's my knee-jerk impression without studying it. But I'm glad to do that. I'm glad to review it and to let you know what I think.
That'd be great, Elaine.
Sure, glad to do it.
I would appreciate that too.
I just can't tell you how many times I've seen other people or even myself have, speaking of knee-jerk reactions, have a knee-jerk reaction to something being wrong, and ultimately realize that there were details I didn't have. And I think we've seen that, from a particular side, perhaps a lot of things that are not quite fully true or aren't true at all can spread like fire. I'm not questioning that any of that is going on here. It's more that I have a personal practice of understanding things as fully as possible before I take a stand on them. And, I am late in trying to access whatever information is available publicly. And that's a failing on my part. But I also don't feel like I'm necessarily the best one to do it on behalf of this group with such a non-existent understanding of the law and such. So, Elaine, if you are willing to kind of, try to fill us all in as best you can at a later point, I think that would serve us all really well if you're comfortable with that.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that.
Okay. JC, how do you feel about that in terms of perhaps tabling a vote on bringing it to the board? Or we could vote on bringing it to the board because we could still move forward with that step even while waiting to hear back from Elaine.
I personally feel comfortable going to the board and asking them to sign on to this petition, even without further information. If you all feel differently, I very much support that too. I think more knowledge is always a good thing. I would like to add on there, Elaine, I don't know if you've gotten any wind of this, but if you're able, as you're looking into this, to kind of peek at, from my understanding, the law firm that has picked up this lawsuit has picked up several similar lawsuits around the country because they're hoping to take something to the Supreme Court.
Right. That's right.
So that's another piece of this that I'm particularly interested in, is that
that's correct. And without knowing a lot about it and about that particular campaign, I would suggest that they're just delighted to have a case focusing on Evanston, and that part of the intention is to embarrass the state of Illinois, the city of Evanston, I see the potential, and again, I've got to plead that I've not reviewed the complaint, and I'm not certain about even what the legal theories are. All of the legal theories are that they're proceeding under. But having said that, it looks to me like it looks to me like potentially it's one of a number of lawsuits that are being brought by advocacy organizations that are really looking to create conversation and controversy more than achieve some kind of measure of social justice.
Thank you. Yeah, that was my understanding from the little bit that I've looked around too. So I guess, does anyone else have anything to say? Should we go to a vote?
I'm ready to go to a vote. I feel like I have enough information and feel strongly that I feel comfortable with us backing it.
I forget, how do we go from here to a vote? Do I just
Roll call.
Roll call? Okay. And so this is for us to vote, for me to take this to the board this next week, to ask the board to sign on to the petition. Natalie Salee.
Yes.
Elaine Siegel.
No.
Martha Gaines.
Yes.
Ida Nolan.
Yes.
JC Herman, I also vote yes. I have no idea how long this is going to take in terms of, but I'm worried this petition is going to go away if we have to wait another month to bring it to the board.
I'm so sorry to go backwards. I don't even know if I'm allowed to do this. Are we saying that you would take this to the board as of Thursday of next week?
Yes.
Okay.
The board can certainly say no.
Right. And as a member of the board, I can certainly make it clear that I wanted to understand more fully before I am one of the board members voting on that. I just feel there's some confusing cognitive dissonance on my part to ask Elaine to give us more details and then go ahead and, tell the board as soon as a week from tonight that we all agree, if we have consensus, to do that. Elaine, do you agree? I mean, I just feel like I shouldn't have you have to report back to us if we're already moving forward with that plan.
Well, I think that it's desirable to have somebody take a look at it. It doesn't have to be me. I can get some kind of informal overview to you before the board meeting. Perhaps go into greater depth than that. I don't know what the record looks like at this point. Like I said, I haven't reviewed the complaint. I don't even know whether there's been a formal motion to dismiss that's been framed, and if so, what the arguments are underlying that. So to sit here and say that to try to put a time frame on when I could give you a review. When I say a review, obviously this would be my personal opinion and not legal advice.
Of course.
Right.
If you I know it's like a week away, Elaine, so I hate to ask you to do something that quickly, but if you had anything that you wanted to submit, that you wanted to give JC to submit to the board, like something written, I could include that in the citizen packet for the board meeting. So the board would have it before the meeting to review while JC is talking about it.
Natalie, when does the packet go out?
We send the live packet out Wednesday morning.
Oh,
and
okay.
I usually put it online like Wednesday afternoon.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I can give you some kind of idea, and the idea could be that it would be my opinion or my perception that it might be well to take a harder look at it before taking a formal position as a board.
Yeah, I think that would be really helpful if that's possible, and I think. Like JC said, I don't know how long the petition will be around. So I think bringing it up to the board in the board meeting in August makes sense. So, but we've already voted on it. So
I agree with you.
So am I.
Elaine, thank you for doing that. I'm really interested in hearing your perspective.
Yeah. I just want to say that, Elaine, thank you for being willing. And I feel a little uncomfortable asking you on the spot like this to commit to something that takes up your time. So I just want to be clear that, if it works for you, that's awesome. And I think that benefits us all greatly. if it doesn't, feel free to say that it does not work for you. You know what I mean? So
If I wade out into it and it's there's a lot of complexity, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you muted. Now you're muted.
I'm having a lot of trouble with the screen tonight. If I wade out into it and discover that there's a lot of complexity and a lot of issues that that could cut in a very different direction than it would seem, you know, from what we know, from what the press coverage has been, I can certainly say that. I'll be able to determine that pretty quickly, I suspect.
Okay, well, I think that would be amazing to you know, hear what you have to say before the board meeting. And so I don't change my vote or anything. Sorry to add additional discussion at this point in the meeting to it.
Oh, it's fine.
No, I do. I very much back you up in terms of, you know, I'd like to be as well informed as possible. I've read just about everything I've easily gotten my hands on. I haven't done a whole bunch of research, but okay. That brings us to Iden and the Diversity Book Club.
Yes. Hello. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I may have to go inside because these children are really loud. I'm gonna do a quick relocation. That's what I'm monitoring right now. How do I switch this around? I'm going.
Oh my gosh, what are they doing?
They're on their way to Paris right now. They were making, this is my back porch. They were making passports. Where are your passports?
Yeah, in their hands.
You got your passports? Everybody has,
Plane tickets. My
plane tickets and passports. And, no, I'm in a meeting. No.
Iden, are you the cool house on your block?
Because you're too loud.
Are you the cool mom that has where all the kids want to go hang out?
Yeah, so and it's lovely and exhausting. Do not look at that. Am I just telling? I won't lie you. I had a really rough week and I've been sick all week. So yeah, so my idea for the book things, 2 ideas. Set up some sort of giveaway system. We can either set up a table at the Wednesday night farmers markets, which I realize is seasonal, but as a start, we can do that. And I was thinking about partnering with Young Black and Lit. If we can get some money in our budget for it, then it's easier. And we also will help support them. They also have grants and things that we could apply for if we don't get money in our budget. But it would be nice to be able to have an assortment of literature that has biopic characters so that we can help support literature, help support the District 65 push for, you know, closing the gap. Which would be, I mean, I don't think Corey Wallace is working with the district anymore, but she certainly has sort of a knowledge of what the district has done in the past, and hopefully could help us sort of if we were to work with her. But I just like the idea of having books available. I have been through our lending library, and the books that are available are, while they are lovely, they're not very diverse. And I have tried to bring some over just to mix in and have some there. And I will continue to do that. But I just feel like if we make a more concerted effort that is, you know, if we really truly, and tie it in maybe to also book clubs, so we can choose, you know, if we do a middle grade, there's not a lot for middle schoolers and high schoolers to do in Evanston. So if we were to do, I know the library used to do, and they're not doing it in person right now, but they were doing a graphic novel book club that was pretty well attended. But if we were able to do that with a book that had, a Black character or an Asian character, something that, would help to increase the diversity. And then each month, I loved, like Harper used to love that they would let one of the participants choose the next book. And so that's really fun, and it helps to engage the community, helps to bring the kids together. We could even somehow.
I just want to say hi.
It's not about you. Please walk away. You're distracting me, Harper.
Yeah.
And I've totally lost my train of thought because that child just can't be. Oh, we can connect it to, I don't know if they're doing the after school program at Cayman this year. But like the Choot kids who come over to Cayman, we can, provide them the books. And that can be something, if some of them need help reading the book, that can be something that is, provided to them as an activity for their time, and they're hanging out at the little clubhouse there. So I just feel like it's a good way. So like if we work with Young Black and Lit, I also now know how to, and we can get an account we can work with publishers. We can work with, I am no longer connected with Booked because my friend just recently sold it to her partner. And so I stepped away. But I have my friend who is more than happy to help us figure out ways to get books on the cheap. And so that would make me happy to do that and to get books into the hands of these kids. So.
I love that. Can I tell you something?
Yeah.
People take the books from our library, so that's why your books are not there anymore.
No, that's good.
No, yeah, I know. I'm just letting you know. The books that come into that space, that little library space, there's somebody from EPL that brings them.
Yeah.
And we've had, I think, 2 or 3 other people actually donate kids' books specifically centering around diversity, and they are gone in a minute. So
yeah, no, I mean that's I love that. Like yeah. I love
it. Just it doesn't. It's hard when people come looking for that kind of diversity in that lending library, and you're not going to find, all you're finding are how to build a kite, because all of the other books have been taken.
Very interesting, right? So that's why we just need to get more. I'm sorry, my hands are very dirty. I can't get the eyelashes. You're gonna have to do it on your own, Lovey. I'll wash my hands and try to do it in a minute. Yes, and I Laura from the library, I've been providing her books because as books were coming into Booked, if they're damaged or things, and if they came from the publisher, they'd say, you can destroy these, we'll give you a credit. And destroy them? Who destroys books? And so I would take them and donate them. And Laura's yes.
That's awesome.
Because I mean, you can't destroy them. And I go around Evanston, and I mean, because I have probably 4 boxes still in my basement, which, sorry, I'll put my hair back up. And we gotta stop. But my parents have a little, so I can't not give them to people. So, but we will continue with that. So if you guys are on board with that, I am happy to reach out to the Young Black and Lit people and see what we can do with them, and see what avenue they suggest for us. I can't do it next week. I was gonna say I can set up a table next week, but I will not be there next week. I have a couple of tests on Thursday, and I start my prep on Tuesday, so I will not be leaving my house. But I'm happy the next week to set up a table at the Wednesday if we want to do that. And we can advertise it if we want to do that.
I'm actually, so you're saying you can't be there next week, but you could be there the following week. Is that right? So I won't be there that week because I'll be on vacation. So you can have my table, assuming that we all want to do this. Like you can just have my whole thing.
Okay. Awesome. And I can
I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, so I think that like we should put like a Facebook post about this and ask the community for recommendations of books to buy. And I can think of several campers off the top of my head that would make really great book recommendations for their age group.
For sure.
So maybe we can
I would also love if we could do like a Ridgeville reading corner on the website and have maybe campers write recommendations and we can
reviews.
Put them on. Yeah, and reviews.
That'd
so
be awesome.
What are you saying?
On the equity page?
Through the equity page, sure.
Okay. Just turn my Brian part of my brain on really quickly. So just so we know. So with like program ideas like this, I will need to give him, if we're going to spend equity money on things, I just need to give him a number so that he knows how much, right? So right now they're planning the budget.
Yeah.
Right now I think it's sitting at that 14,000 mark because that's where we've been the past couple of years on it. So when I am talking about budget with some of these consultants, I've been saying about $10,000 and just kind of leaving it there. And if they need wiggle room on that, we can always discuss it. But I don't want to come in with the full 14 because there will be things that we want to do, like a book club, that we'll need some spending money on. So all of that being said, if you do reach out to the groups that you're talking about and you can somehow come up with an idea of how much it would cost to do that, just let me know so I can keep Brian in the loop.
Okay.
The other thing I was going to say, grants also have to be accounted for within our budget. So we can't apply for a grant if it's not already planned for. We can plan for it. We can plan for it within the budget. If we don't get it, that's okay, because we've said we might. But if we get money that we didn't plan for, that becomes a problem for the park district. So, so just looking ahead as we as a group come up with more ideas about this kind of stuff, if there's grant opportunities that arise, we should be thinking about that like now so that we can get it passed in the budget in September. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So I will reach out to them tomorrow and I will also ask Chelsea, my friend, about what is a good number to budget for a year's worth of books, to give away.
Great.
And then I will get you those numbers.
That's great.
I can throw together a Facebook post too.
Great.
Yeah.
Love it all. Love all the things.
I love all the things.
Love all the things. I love reading.
And that's not something we have to vote on, right? Because that's just like programming suggestions.
I don't know. I'm not really sure. I think that if everybody thinks it's a good idea, I don't know why we need to vote on it, but well, maybe because it does allocate some of our budget.
Good point.
So maybe
I move to initiate Ridgeville reading equity money for the Ridgeville Ready Reads. I move Iden Nolan.
I don't know if I'm allowed to say this before there's a second, but there should probably be a certain amount of money in the motion.
For $5 million, $5,000.
Is that still too high,
I know
Natalie?
I think so. It's like our budget for
$2,000. $2,000.
What's a good span, Natalie?
I think you could say maybe 1,000 and stop there.
$1,000
Or no more. Let's just say for no more than $1,000.
for no more than $1,000.
Is there a second?
I will.
Elaine Siegel, second.
All right, roll call vote for an increase of $1,000 in the REDI budget to go towards a diversity book club. Natalie Salee?
Can I ask a question? Is this for an increase in our budget or just for $1,000 of our equity budget?
Good question. I would
don't think we don't have the power as a committee to increase the budget. Only the board can do that. But we can say we would like $1,000 of the budget they afford us to go towards a book club.
Yes, that.
Okay. That's what
allocating $1,000 of the REDI budget to the book club.
Love it.
Natalie Salee?
Yes.
Elaine Siegel?
Yes.
Martha Gaines?
Yes.
Ida Nolan?
Yes. I know.
JC Herman? Yes. I think this is awesome. I think this is going to be super cool. I started bugging Natalie about doing a junior equity committee before we were even formed. So
like recruiting Wes. I was like, that man is trying to wrap up college.
Harper's girl.
I'm excited.
Very excited to be a part of this meeting.
She could be like the chair of that committee. Okay, I think that is all of our business for today. We're good to go. Can I run through my list of what I'm supposed to talk to the board about next week just to make sure I have everything? Is that okay? So we need to talk to the board about a second commissioner joining the REDI committee because we're supposed to have 2 commissioners.
You should let them know that Debbie resigned.
Of course.
We need a second commissioner based on what they passed.
Of course, that's important information. Ask the board to invite more. Is it the board that will be inviting more community members to join us? Is that a board action?
No.
Is that just us?
It's us.
Okay. Ask for more money to be allocated for events and giveaways. Are we going to do that in addition to or was that thinking about like books and such when we talked about that?
I know that right now Brian has 14,000 in the budget. Given that we'll be hiring a consultant, right? I'm floating 10,000 out there at these consultants. They may need more. I don't know, but that's just kind of where I'm giving them the general starting point. So I don't know. I don't know if consultancy eats up that entire budget and we'll need an extra $1,000. I'm not sure. So that's something that we need to like really decide as a committee.
Because we had talked about,
there's not like infinite amounts of money that we can allocate.
Right.
If we add $1,000 to the equity committee, we were pulling $1,000 from somewhere else in our budget. So like, which is fine. I think that's fine, but that's the reality of how the budget works.
Okay. So is it more appropriate, Natalie, for maybe you and I to have a conversation of how I word that for the board later?
Sure.
Okay. And then as per the vote, recommending that they sign on to the District 65 lawsuit petition. Is there anything else? Okay, thank you. I think that brings us to a close.
Natalie Salee makes a motion to adjourn at 7:39 p.m.
I know.
Martha Gaines, second.
All right, roll call vote us out. Natalie Salee?
Yes.
Elaine Siegel?
Yes.
Martha Gaines?
Yes.
Ida Nolan?
Yes.
JC Herman says yes too. Awesome. Thank you, everybody. See you in a few weeks.
Thank
Good
you.
night,
Have a
everyone.
good night.
See you
Bye.
soon.
Bye.
Bye.